You ready?
Ready to start.
We'll call them our regular meeting of the DPS Board of Education to order. Could we have a roll call, please?
You have to. You can have your vice president.
Would our vice president call the roll callers?
Bobby Orozco,
Present.
Mary Lou Cameron,
Present.
Olivia Pice, present.
Okay, we do have a quorum. Would we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Thank you. Our next agenda item is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes?
Madam President, members of the board, we will be removing the executive session. We have 2 board members absent and there's not a need without the full board present.
Okay. So could we have approval of agenda as with the changes of no closed executive session?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a second.
I second.
All right, would you take roll call? Let's see, are you doing roll call for us? Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
Ms. Cameron,
Yes,
Mr. Orozco,
Yes.
Olivia, yes.
okay, the agenda has been approved without a closed executive session. All right, reports. NEA is unable to be here tonight unless someone snuck in behind the podium. Okay, student council at Diving High School, they were the first here tonight. Wow.
Good evening, Madam President, Superintendent Chavez, and other members of the board. My name is Desiree Richmond. We're from the Deming High School Student Council, and I'm the student body vice president.
And my name is Victoria Baca. I'm the student body president. So tonight we're going to inform you what our council is doing, what we're working on. So currently we're going to go to our district conference, which is the 27th of this month. That's going to be in Las Cruces. And it's where we're going to meet with the rest of our Southwest district. And we're going to go to like the park, chill, have a good time, you know, talk about our leadership, how our councils are doing. And it'll be pretty much really fun. We'll be like new district officers with that. So
The next thing that we are currently working on is our junior student council conference. So it's like a mini state conference that we host for the elementaries 3rd through 5th grade. And they come to the high school and we run like workshops and we have a guest speaker and she talks to them and like we encourage them to join student council and be a role model within their schools. And that's going to be May 2nd and we would like to invite you guys as well.
What time does it start?
At 9 a.m.
At the
High school.
high school auditorium
The high
The
school.
gym,
in the gym.
the main gym.
and then right now we're in the process of electing new officers for our school. So we are informed the Red Mountain, the incoming freshmen, that we're looking for new freshman class officers as well as the rest of the high school. Just let them know that positions are now open, so we can start the process of electing new officers for the next school year.
And then for our junior student council conference, we'll also be assisted by Early College High School, Red Mountain Middle School, and Members Valley High School. And we're also assisting with prom this upcoming year. So the juniors are running it, but we are assisting them in planning because it is their first time planning a dance. They didn't plan dating due to COVID. And so we are helping them, and that'll be next weekend on April 29th.
The dance with?
Yes,
That's coming up.
Where's that located?
at the learning.
At the Learns.
Center.
And then graduation, all sorts of things coming up.
Is there any other questions you guys have for us tonight?
Any questions?
I think so.
No,
Thank you.
thank you. You were
Thank you for
very
coming.
thorough. Thank you.
Appreciate you guys being here.
Okay, next, our consent agenda. Are there any, what do I say? Anything that you need to be set aside?
No, so you can just
If
entertain
not,
a motion.
If someone
I'll make
would
a motion.
entertain a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the
We
motion.
have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mrs. Cameron,
Yes.
Mr. Orozco,
Yes.
Mrs. Pice, yes.
Okay, thank you. Then our consent agenda is approved.
Yes. So, Madam President, members of the board, we'll start with our action items. And action item A is consideration and approval of the new school year calendar that we did a work session on last week. Mr. Parker is here to provide a brief overview and answer any additional questions you might have had. Meeting.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez, thank you. I am very happy to be here to bring this calendar that's been a lot of time coming. The calendar before you today does hit the statutory requirements that were set forth for 1,140 hours. Denver Public Schools is choosing to meet that through a combination of hours and days. The calendar that you have in front of you has 180 direct student days. Those are student present, 2 parent conference days, 11 in-service days. For the contract days for instructional staff, 193 contract days. Along with it, we did get guidance final from the PED that allows us to count passing periods at the secondary. So their time for instructional day doesn't need to change, but at elementary, what we're doing is adding about 15 minutes to the day. That satisfies the requirement and allows us to participate in the K-12 plus program as well that infuses more funding. So if you look at this is kind of where we landed. This calendar also was voted on by the community to the tune of about 77% of the people who voted, which was well over 1,400 individuals voted for this calendar option. That's what we present to you today for that.
77% of how many?
About 1,400.
That's a great.
We had a great
It's a great
turnout.
turnout. A lot of input, a lot of participation, and I'm glad because we
Yeah,
don't want to make these decisions in isolation. A lot of conversation on that. This is also on the tail end of all the school visits that we had to receive some input from all staff in the community.
thank you.
The only other thing I have to add to that is upon approval for this, we will lay over a pre-K calendar on this. They also are required to increase instructional hours to 1,080. And so one of the pieces that our community did say is they wanted a calendar that matches the pre-K calendar or pre-K matches this calendar. And so once this is approved, we'll layer a pre-K calendar over this. Preliminarily, what we're looking at is something that matches almost identical, except for most of the Fridays are half days for our pre-K, but we're working with ECD to finalize that. But it's just for information for you to know that's kind of.
And right now, our pre-K program has Fridays off, but with those additional hours, there's no way for us to maintain that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only other notable change on the calendar in front of you is that you'll notice that at the end of every semester, we would normally have half days, right, early release. We are removing those. There was some guidance from the PED, whether it's early release days or even weather event days that you do have to make up these hours. So the calendar in front of you gives us a buffer of about 3 early release days. If we go beyond that, we might have to add an instructional day or take one of those in-service days and make that an instructional day, but hopefully we won't have to do that.
Were there any early release days this year? This last?
There were right at the end of each semester. So right before Christmas break, the students went half day and
And we'll do that.
we'll do
at
that
the end
in
of the
May.
semester.
Mhm.
So
But
we'll
those
have
are 2.5 early release.
2.5, okay.
And the only unplanned early release, I think, has been
Got one.
one. We've had
Weather.
one weather event and we had
It's
enough
not been
hours
bad.
baked in that we've not had to make those up.
Yeah,
So,
that's good.
And we have, in this, we have enough hours to have 3 of those.
so.
Our staff, for any other questions?
How many were on your committee?
We actually didn't have a committee this year. We went to every single school.
Uh-huh,
So we're wanting to think about it that way. Every single staff member was part of it.
okay,
That they were given the opportunity to vote. And we also had a digital survey where they can send in kind of their priorities and what they would like to see.
okay, thank you. Any other questions?
No, I think 77% says pretty much said it, right?
I'm correct. Yeah, you don't always get that.
It was a fantastic turnout. We did a lot of work talking about that. There was a lot of conversation on the state legislation that was going. So I think that helped
Yeah.
drive some of the interest.
Yeah.
I'll make the motion, we approve that calendar as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Would you roll call for the 2023-2024 K-12 school calendar? Please?
Mrs. Cameron,
Yes.
Mr. Orozco,
Yes.
Mrs. Pice, yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Motion passed. Thank you for all your work and those that worked with you.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
All right, now we're to the.
Madam President, members of the board, we're to item B. We have some budget adjustment requests that Ms. Doyle will review.
Good evening, members of the board, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Thomas. We do have before you a number of budget adjustment requests. It's that time of year when we start moving money around to utilize it the best we can, and many of those before you, you'll see that that's the case. The first one is our GO bond. This one is actually just increasing our budget to the extent that we have cap. I wanted to wait to make sure that our audit was final before I could request this increase. The next one is actually a final allocation for some SB 9 money. This is something that we, I know Ms. Chavez and the construction department have been working really diligently to find out how we're going to utilize this to the best of the ability for the district. Then you have our rural and low income schools grant. We haven't received this one for quite some time, so this is a pretty large amount of including carryover that we have. We are actually going to pay for our hard to staff stipends from this. So as soon as this is approved, we will move forward with that.
May I ask you a question on that?
Yes, ma'am.
It's the first time, have we applied before?
We've gotten it. Yes,
Okay,
we just, for some reason, the PED did not
okay,
provide it. They didn't give it to any of the districts. I'm not sure what happened.
2 years.
oh, wow,
There was a
okay,
couple of years where nobody got it, and then we got a rather large chunk
yeah,
to spend in
thank you.
a few short months. Number 10 that you have before you is, this is a grant specific to Bell Elementary, and we're just moving funds around to help pay for the after-school program. And then 11, 12, these are all the same, 13 and 14. It's really just kind of small amounts that we're moving around to help utilize the funds to the best that we can. There's some salary savings in there, things like that, that this time of year, we're not going to be using. So we want to make sure we're moving it to wherever we would be able to use it best. The next two that you have before you, number 15 and 16, are operational monies that we are moving to our capital outlay function. So we can capitalize them, it's a lot of capital. And we did actually receive approval from the PED to utilize operational funds for this. And this is related to the security projects. There's many security projects, but these specifically are security window tint, card access, and security fencing. We're going to utilize these funds for, so that's why we're moving it to the capital outlay function. And then lastly, this is also our NM pre-K grant, just moving some salary savings to the appropriate line so she can utilize.
So with number 11, 12, 13, and 14,
Yes, ma'am.
what you're doing is spending it down completely? And so it's not funds
That's the
that,
plan.
it's not funds that can carry over?
No.
No,
Not
okay,
these ones.
thank you.
Any other questions?
No, just nice to see you. Yeah. You're welcome.
Nice to be here.
Yeah. Okay. Are we going to do? Oh, we went through all of them, didn't we?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
we sure
There was a
did.
handful.
Any other questions on these?
No.
Or comments?
questions.
Then I would entertain a motion for the approval of the budget adjustment request.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Would you color
Yes,
the vote, please?
yes, Mrs. Cameron,
Yes,
Mr. Orozco,
Yes.
Mrs. Pice, yes.
the motion carries. Thank you. Thank you for your
Thank
work
you.
on this.
Thank you, guys.
So, Madam President, members of the board, our next item is the approval of furnishings, consideration and approval of furnishings for early college high school. As you know, we are moving our early college over to the main campus, and we have schematics of the project for FF&E, which is the furniture, fixtures and equipment. Ms. Stopper, you have anything else to add?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez, the Construction and Facilities Department is requesting approval of Atmosphere Commercial Interiors as the vendor. This is a CES proposal for the furnishings for the new early college high school. It's all very basic. And the total for the proposal was $196,130.
I think this is a great idea to have the early high school, college near the
We'll
campus.
be able to,
I think it'd be easier and it also reduces liabilities that we might have.
So they can share it's easier to share the facility.
Yeah. Right. I'm very
And
pleased.
lunch is lunch too, right? Because how do they get their lunch?
Ginger
here?
will just keep it the same and just be delivering them there.
they'll still have a cafeteria, like a shared space where they go and eat together and have their breaks. So they'll have their lunch served there. But they'll share science labs, like if there's a science lab need, they'll share if there's elective students need to take at the high school campus,
Auditorium.
the auditorium can be shared, just
And in the
Yeah.
past, they would go back and forth.
correct. We had quite a bit of busing that goes back and forth.
Mm.
After school programs, we'll be able to consolidate all our transportation in one area, that sort of thing. So it'll
Once
be
we get
nice.
them into a building, they can be ranked with the state and PSFA. And then we can start talking about funding actual
Facility.
building and get them out of the sport.
Oh, great. Okay, very good. Any other comments? Anything you want to add, Superintendent?
No.
And if not, I would entertain a motion for the approval of furnishings quote for early college high school.
I'll make that motion.
A motion,
I'll second.
we have a motion and a second. Would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mrs. Cameron,
Yes.
Mr. Orozco,
Yes.
Mrs. Pice, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We look forward to this facility added. Right. Next,
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, we have a consideration and approval of a part-time employees benefits resolution. Mr. Ferner will present.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez. Today I am asking for your approval of a resolution allowing the district to offer our part-time employees the opportunity to tap into our benefits packages. And it's a standard resolution that is approved every year, but I do stand for any questions.
any questions? Or comments?
I just think that's a good idea. There's a lot of people who really could benefit from that. So
Right.
yeah, appreciate that.
Okay, if there are no more questions or comments. Could we have a roll call, please?
You make a motion.
Somebody needs to make a motion. So I'll make the motion that we approve the part-time benefits resolution.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Would you take the roll, please?
Yes, Mrs. Cameron,
Yes,
Mr. Orozco,
Yes.
Mrs. Pice, yes.
thank you. The motion carries. If you don't take the roll, you take the vote.
Yes.
Sorry. All right.
Madam President, members of the board, our next action item E is the consideration and approval of a resolution authorizing the disposal of equipment from technology. And Mr. Glickler, we provided the list, is here to also review it. Thank you.
We don't have a second.
Good evening, President Cameron, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez. You have before you a list of our audit report items from the recent technology audit that we conducted between November and February, and I'm seeking approval for the removal of these items from our inventory system. There are several categories of items that the district is responsible for, as I know you know. There are items over $5,000 for which we are accountable to the state. There are items over $1,000 for which board policy says that we have to report and maintain. And then there's a fuzzier category of items, everything under $1,000. There's no outright requirement that we track them, but we do it anyway in technology when there are things like computers that are highly mobile. We have a lot of them, and we want to make sure where they are and be accountable for them too. In the report that you have, there is nothing over $5,000 that is missing. There are a few items over $1,000 that are missing.
Mhm.
As you will notice in the report, there are 27 of them. Of them, only 3 of them have any remaining value. And there's a reason for that I'm going to get to in a little bit here. There are many more items under 1,000 that are missing, and they break down into various categories as well. And there's reasons why they're missing too. Overall, though, I'm seeking the approval of removing all of these items from inventory so we can get the system cleaned up. What you have before you is not the result of just the last audit, but the result of the last several audits. The reason for that is that we were ready to go to conduct the inventory audit, and then the pandemic happened. And we conducted some of our audits during the pandemic. One of them before we came back into the buildings, and one of them after we came back into the buildings, and then the most recent one to finish that off. And in those first 2, we made the decision internally to continue to look for things that do not seek approval to remove things from the inventory system. We felt that our inventory had become very suddenly, A, larger by thousands of computers, and B, fluid by computers moving home with students and then back into the buildings in numbers we had never seen before. And so this is multiple years of audits. And in many cases, some of the items that you see before you have in fact been missing for not just multiple audits, but many years, in fact, and we're finally seeking approval to remove them.
Mhm.
So our inventory process is conducted annually, and we usually conduct it in November when there's not a pandemic around us. And it is conducted by the technology department on behalf of the school sites. The assets are not ours, they don't belong to technology, they belong to the district, and the custodians of them are the school sites themselves. In many school districts, responsibility for scanning those items will fall to the school sites. And I've heard stories of principals having to go out with a scanner and hunt down all of their stuff, which doesn't sound like a lot of fun to me, but is what is done in places. We do things a little bit differently in Deming, where we have a technology personnel assigned to each school site. And one of their functions is that they follow that equipment, they know where it is. And they're the ones that conduct those audits for us. And it takes that responsibility off the school and makes it so that somebody who's more familiar with what stuff is likely to be can go find it. So we lose fewer things. And it's something that the LSTs and the rest of technology do every year on behalf of the school sites. We do rope the school sites and the departments into that, however, because once we have conducted our first wave, I said everybody ought to look again. And then once we conducted our second wave, we contact the site administration to say, here's the stuff we couldn't find. Now we need you to contact your personnel and say, hey, please bring this back so we can scan it. And if it's not here, let us know so we can remove it from the inventory system. There are 2 ways of that. And then the final wave is what we are doing today. And this is not something we've really done before. It's closing the loop on the inventory process, in part because we were preparing to do it. And then again, go to the pandemic and we stalled that plan. We're doing it now, though. This is the final closing of the loop of the inventory process. So why are there items missing? It's the question that's going to get asked. And some of this is a little bit by design. We knew when the pandemic hit that we were sending computers home with people, and we knew that that was going to be frantic, quick, and a little bit messy. And everyone did their best to track these items as they could. And what we did to accommodate that, and we prioritized, the directive to the technicians was, grab your oldest laptops that are already ones that we were about to surplus anyway, your older computers, and just get them into the hands of people so they have something to use. That way they have something that they can use, but if this goes sideways, what we lost had very little value remaining. The second reason that items are missing is some of these items have in fact been missing for a while, and they just didn't get removed from the inventory list. And we've tried time after time, and we have panic teachers who we go to and they say, I haven't seen that iPad in 5 years. And so they are just items that have been on the list for a while, and we are finally seeking approval to say, you know what, those are just gone. We'd like to get rid of them. A last reason that some of these items are missing is you'll notice on the report, there's a section that indicates student versus current student. And you'll see that there's a large difference between those numbers. Computers that are assigned to students that don't attend the district anymore, that number is a lot higher than the ones that belong to students that technically are still enrolled. During the pandemic, the population was fluid and mobile, and a lot of people just did not come back to New Mexico, and their computers went with them. I mentioned this story to the board before, but I recall someone who works for the SWREC and previously for the school district, Christine Parton, saying that she had some students show up in Tier C, saying, here's some computers, we need to turn them in. Well, they belong to us. And they were attending school there now. So that happens. And it seems like that happened in a lot of places, especially places like ours where the population is so fluid. But you can see the discrepancy there, that's the largest item, is we have students who just graduate or leave and the computer just seems to go with them. We tried to benchmark this a little bit. Oh, one more thing. The last reason items are on this list is because they still exist. They're in a drawer somewhere in the district. That happens every year where we suddenly have an item turn up after inventory is done, we put it back in the system. Even if it gets removed, we put it back into the system and say, thank you for finding it. And part of our function as a department is to also identify those items when we're scanning, when we scan a computer and it's marked as disposed, we put it back into the system. That's another reason that you're going to see some items on this list. We tried to benchmark this a little bit. I've had conversations with other districts, and this kind of large movement of technology items seems not uncommon. So I'm not surprised to see the numbers. I'm surprised to see that they are as low as they are, but I'm not surprised to see them, and they do seem to reflect what other districts have experienced in the last few years. What are the biggest areas of concern here? You'll see in the items over $1,000 that we only have 3 items that have any value that are missing, and their total value is under $1,000 combined. These are mostly old stack computers that are generally long gone. So it's not a particularly large item of concern. And when you look down on the items under $1,000, you'll see a lot of categories where the actual value is pretty low compared to how many items are missing. What that really leaves for the items of concern are A, student devices that are missing, because that totals, as you can see here, a value of about $60,000 in computers. And B, student devices that belong to current students that we somehow couldn't get our hands on and scan, which was about 19,000. Those are our largest areas of concern. And I have some thoughts I'd like to share with the board for how we can address this going forward. There's a lot of things that we can do in the technology department in terms of tracking these items. And we've been implementing over the last year some monitoring systems that we can use to better find out where they are. I remember when I came on board in the district in 2017, and I got to present the first inventory report, and I was appalled to see that there were $40,000 of iPads. I lied, $44,000 of iPads that we could not account for in 2017, just didn't know where they were because they were getting purchased and put into doors and then people forgot about them. And so what we've been working on over the last year is putting in place a robust system that tracks those iPads where they are, collects them back to our building if they're not being used, so we can have far fewer of them go missing. And you'll notice on this list, the category of iPad is pretty small. It's valueless in the items of iPad that are over $1,000, and under 1,000, we have significantly lower price missing in terms of total value, although still some, as you can see. So that's one area of concern, but one thing that we can do. But there is something that I'd like the board to start to consider, and we can't obviously vote on this today, but I want to put it into your heads. The computers that we get for students, they are the Lenovo laptop, typically at the high school, and they carry that with them throughout the years that they are there. We're looking at restoring the process that we've had in the past where they get the same laptop back every year. We did that for a while, and then from logistical purposes, especially during the pandemic, we said, and made sure we just gave them what we could get them. But the students really like that. They like getting back the same device. They took care of that device when it was theirs every year. They slapped stickers on them and personalized them a little bit. They did like that a lot. And so we're bringing that back. And after those 4 years are done in high school, we get that laptop back and we try to find some other use for it. Sometimes we can find a use at the school where they're loaners. Sometimes they will go to the elementary schools, especially in the past when we did not have so many laptops in the schools. Sometimes they're old enough that they're just getting surplus, but sometimes there's a couple years of life that we can still get out of those devices. And I'm putting together a plan I want you to consider where we find a way to donate those computers to the students when they graduate. Because frankly, some of them are just taking those computers anyway and not telling us. But also, frankly, those computers will be more use to them than they will be recycled into the district. Especially, for example, at the early college, where 2 more years, they're going to have a bachelor's degree. And I feel like those computers will last another 2 years. I'm looking into the logistics of what we can do about that internally to make that work. There are some license concerns we want to make sure are valid. For example, the way that we get our licenses through something called Shape the Future grant, and that is it reduces the cost a little bit of the devices. I want to make sure that when we give those to the students, if we approve this, that is still allowed to be done. There are also some investment concerns, some sort of skin in the game concerns that I also want to present to the board. In the past, a large part of our support for this program was funded by technology fees that were paid through the high school. And when COVID started, those fees were expanded district-wide because the computers expanded district-wide. But then when the program was removed, it was not just removed from the other grades, it was also removed from the high school completely. And so that fund disappeared. And that was a large chunk of the fund that we used to maintain things like chargers for these computers that are even more mobile than the devices and the students. A lot of those go missing all the time. It was part of the fund that we used to sustain and repair the devices. I think that in conjunction with this donation plan that we also look at those student fees, because then you can have a really good situation where a student over the course of 4 years invests $200 of fees on a device and then keeps it when they graduate, which is between half and a third of the cost of that computer, and it will last them for the rest of their college degree. Pretty excited about this plan. I think you can tell. When I've talked to vendors about it, they say, we've heard of a lot of people doing that. That sounds amazing. You should definitely do that. And so we're getting a lot of encouragement, and I'll see what I can figure out on the logistical side to make it work. I want to make sure it's in your head though when we come time to propose something like that. So last of all, this is part of closing the loop on the inventory process. Once these things are removed from the inventory system, I will say it has been a few months since we finalized this list. And so we're gonna have to go back and say, okay, now that we're back to 0 missing, did anything go missing in the last couple of months? Let's figure that out before our actual audit cycle comes back up. But if you approve this today, we will remove those items over $1,000 for which board policy applies. We will also remove those missing items under $1,000, which it doesn't apply, but we want to track them anyway. And last, anything that we do find, like this here that is on the list as missing, we'll go ahead and put them back into the inventory system and make sure that they're tracked. That I stand for any questions.
Sounds like you have it all planned out. As best you can.
Best as anyone can.
Yes, it's probably a daunting job trying to keep track of everything.
I will say that the LSTs do panic a little bit. They panic's an unkind word, but they do get nervous when they go scan all their stuff and they come back and we say, you know, there's a third of the items, go back and scan them. We need to find those items. Or when someone is told that there was an item assigned to their room and they say, I haven't seen that in how long? And so people get nervous about it, and we try to navigate a lot of that nervousness with as much grace, nervousness, which is much grace as possible, because we know that people are worried about it. We just want to know where they are.
Yeah.
We want to know where they are. If they're not around, we want to know what happened to them so we can be accountable for it and report it up to y'all.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like that students sell their do you have?
So my sense of this is that yes, there have been reports occasionally of somebody going to a pawn shop and saying, oh, this has got a Denver Public Schools tag on it. I think that does happen. I would say that the vast bulk of what we are seeing going missing is reflected based on this current student and former student breakdown. Is students just graduate and they treat it like a textbook. They forget that it's a computer that is owned by the district. They forget to turn it back in, they leave. And what are we gonna do? You know? The schools do their best at that very frantic time of year, which we are about to enter, to contact the families and say, hey, you've got these things you need to turn in. We're going to fine you if you don't turn it in. And that tends to be as far as it goes. And that's why I'm looking closely at an idea where we can find a donation plan so that we can, first of all, take a lot of that problem off our plate. And secondly, do them a favor to do us a favor at the same time.
Right.
But I would say that, yes, it does happen, but I don't think it's the bulk of what's occurring.
Okay.
I think that the majority it's just forgetfulness and taking computers with them when they graduate or they leave the state, or these are devices that are literally in a drawer somewhere in the district that somebody just did not unlock when we went to the inventory.
Right. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Other questions? No comments? Okay.
So we can entertain a motion.
We'll entertain a motion.
Dispose of equipment from technology.
Okay, for consideration and approval of resolution authorizing the disposal of equipment from technology department.
I make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, would you call for the vote, please?
Yes, Mrs. Cameron,
Yes.
Mr. Orozco,
Yes.
Mrs. Pice, yes.
Okay, the motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
I
very
know
much.
it's a daunting.
Yeah.
I'll say that my team will be delighted to be able to start from zero and work their way towards making sure we have everything up. I'll also say this has not happened before for us to get this approval and cleanup. So thank you for doing this, staff.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Madam President, members of the board, at next section, item F is consideration and award of RFP 23-09, and Ms. Doyle is here to present that to you.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez. This RFP is for our annual audit. I did request and receive permission from the state auditor to go out a little earlier than usual. The state auditor requires that we have a contract by May 5th. They were lagging and I was getting a little worried about the time frame that we had to get everything done. So that's why I'm bringing it before you now. There was 2 submissions. My gut is that because we went out earlier, there was not more because no one else really had the RFP available. I can't swear to that, but that's what I'm thinking. We did meet with the audit committee. I think maybe multiple times or at least once, and then, you know, some correspondence back and forth to work on the evaluations and discussions of the submissions. And I am requesting approval for this RFP for Jaramillo Accounting Group. I think I got that right. Is that right, girls? Okay, I wasn't exactly sure of the vendor. And they will have a 4-year contract with us, or a 1-year renewable 3 different times. The state audit rule has now allowed for us to go 8 years, so we could potentially use them for a total of 8 years. This approval that I'm requesting is for the 4 years.
Okay. All right. Any questions or comments? Nope. Okay,
Just as an aside, this was also the CPA group, the accounting group that did our special audit back in 2017,
okay,
when I first got here. So,
all right.
we're buddies.
Yeah. Okay. We will call for the approval of consideration award or RFP number 23-09.
I'll make that motion. We approve it.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Cameron,
Yes,
Mr. Orozco,
Yes.
Mrs. Pice, yes.
call for the vote, not the roll.
It's okay.
Madam
We know what
President.
you mean. Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Madam President, members of the board, we're on action item G, consideration and approval of the lease agreement between the Deming Public Schools and Deming Cesar Chavez High School for the school year 23-24, and I believe, I know Mr. Nunez is here. Thank you for being here, but there haven't been any changes to our lease agreement. So I don't know if you have anything you wanted to add.
No.
If there's any questions that you had.
Then we are upkeeping the facilities and we would love for you to approve of this. These type of questions.
And we support reapproving too.
Mr. Nunez is becoming a staple.
I know. What did you say?
Mr. Nunez is becoming a staple of the board meetings. So let's,
Oh, yes.
we can
That's right.
give him his own chair.
Okay. What is any discussion?
No.
Or comments, other comments? And if not,
I'll make the motion.
it's a motion.
I'll second that motion.
For approval of the lease agreement between the Deming Public Schools and Deming Cesar Chavez High School for year 23-24. Would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Cameron,
Yes,
Mr. Orozco,
Yes.
Mrs. Pice, yes.
okay, the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Nunez is staying up here because we have one more MOU to approve for next school year, and that is for the transportation. I don't, again, believe anything has changed. It's pretty standard. Any comments or questions related to that?
No, other than it's working relationship and we are considering and hope you consider this. MOU.
And we recommend approval as well.
Okay. Do I have a motion
I just
or
have,
comments? I'm sorry.
I just have one question. So the kids that are coming from Columbus, they're being transported by you.
That is correct. So transportation, we have a bus that comes from the port. They pick up students at the port and in Columbus. They stay in the same bus and then they actually get here to the high school and then they get transported to our school.
Oh, okay.
And the same way on the way back. They stay in one bus, which is much more fluid and works well for our students. That way they don't have to get off of buses and get into bus 27. Now they're all on bus 27. It's working well.
Oh, okay.
That's good.
Thank you. Yeah. I was just wondering how that works now.
It's much more fluid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
good, good, yes.
Any other comments?
Nope.
Anything to add? Okay, then I would entertain a motion for approval of the memorandum of understanding between Deming Public Schools and Deming Cesar Chavez Charter High School for school year 23-24 for transportation.
I will make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Would you call the roll, please? I'll call for the vote, please.
Yes. Mrs. Cameron,
Yes,
Mr. Orozco,
Yes.
Mrs. Pice, yes.
the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. You made a short one tonight, didn't you?
Yeah, yes.
Madam President, members of the board, the next action item is it's the consideration of an approval of our annual agreement with Deming Public Schools, Haynes Buses, and M&T for emergency transportation services.
Ms. Cameron, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez, this is just a renewal of an MOU between the bus contractors and Deming Public Schools, since they have most of the buses if there were ever an emergency. This is their role, our role, working together so that we can move students quickly from one site to another if needed. And this is just a renewal.
Okay, any questions, comments?
Why isn't that not rolled into the standard MOU with these? Why is it something separate?
Because it's not part of to and from transportation under the state allocation. And when you deploy contractors like this, it would fall more under the chartered MOU pricing. And so we want to ensure the contractor that they'll get payment for their services when we have to deploy them.
It's to keep things cleaner
Yeah.
between the separate ways that we have to fund and account for the way transportation works for the state.
And there have been occasions in the past where it
Yes,
has
we
to
have
happen quickly.
evacuated RST, Bell.
Yes,
RST a couple times, I believe.
yes,
Yes,
yeah. And so that's gone very smoothly.
Yes.
it goes smooth.
Yes, awesome.
Okay. Any other comments?
Nope.
Anything you want to add? Then I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the MOU between the Deming Public Schools and Hain Buses Incorporated and M&T buses for school year 23-24 for emergency transportation. Do you have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
We have the motion and a second. Could we have roll call, please? Vote.
It's okay, Mrs. Cameron. We know what you can do. Mrs. Cameron,
Yes,
Mr. Orozco,
Yes.
Mrs. Pice, yes.
the motion carries.
And Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Milo will be here for two more action items, and we are on J now, which is also consideration and approval of the memorandum of understanding between the district and Haynes and M&T buses regarding air conditioning maintenance and repair. Again, it's to keep the separate items cleaner and not mixed between the different funding sources.
So over the years, our contractors have, through attrition, absorbed specialized buses with air conditioning. Prior to 2021, only sped buses have air conditioning on them. Route buses do not require air conditioning. So as they've acquired those buses, we do maintenance and repair on them, and we do servicing on those air conditioners. So after 2026, those buses that they've absorbed will be up for replacement. So then now the state requires all buses to have air conditioning, and they're responsible for that. And that comes out of their rental fees to take care of M&R for air conditioning on buses.
Now, if it's a new bus,
This is just renewal of buses that that contractors currently have.
and those are not air conditioners, not built, they're an addition.
They come from the factory like
They
that.
come from the
They're
factory with
specialized
us,
buses.
yeah,
Yeah, for medical projects, medically fragile children.
even for the older buses. Yeah, okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Well, I think air conditioning is important in our area, of course, right?
Yeah.
For all kids.
After many, many years,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So that's.
Sitting four in a seat?
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't want to sit in a bus without air conditioning for sure.
Yeah. Right, but we all survived it. Any other comments? I'll stop mine.
No.
Okay, then if not, I would entertain a motion for approval of the memorandum of understanding between the Deming Public Schools and Haynes Buses Incorporated and M&T buses for school year 2023-2024 for air conditioning equipment maintenance and repair. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, do the roll call, please. For the vote call, roll.
Mrs. Cameron,
Yes,
Mr. Orozco,
Yes.
Mrs. Pice, yes. Thank you.
the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Oh, wait a minute, we have another.
We have one
Oh,
more
another.
transportation. Our next action item K, Mr. Milo's not going anywhere. This again is another memorandum of understanding for the attrition model for the next school year.
Yes, on this model, we'll continue with this model, even though I have 2 retirements this year. We are advertising to refill those positions. However, it's good to have this in place in case I cannot fill the positions and we can attrition out to the contractors. Reason being is because Deming Public Schools bus drivers are full-time, and not only do they drive, they also do other duties. And we do a lot of midday runs anymore. I mean, we run all day long. And so hopefully we'll get some applicants for these two positions. But if not, at least we have this in place so that we can go to the table with the contractors and look at them absorbing, the two sped buses if I don't have any applicants. And this is just a renewal.
Any other discussion? Comments?
I'll make the motion. May approve.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Okay, would you call the roll for the approval of a memorandum of understanding between Deming Public Schools and Hain Buses and M&T Busing for school year 23-24 for DPS attrition model?
Yes, Mrs. Cameron,
Yes.
Mr. Orozco.
Yes.
Mrs. Pice, yes.
The
Thank you.
motion carries. Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Melo.
So, Madam President, members of the board, we are on our last action item, L, which is consideration and approval of the Board of Education proclamation recognizing May 13th, 2023 as Lemonade Day. So let me read this proclamation quickly. First, let me tell you, Lemonade Day is an entrepreneurial activity that is in our community, and we've partnered with them so that our students have the opportunity through after school to go through the process of what it means to run a business. And so in support of Lemonade Day, it says, whereas Lemonade Day was created to help prepare youth for life as business leaders, social advocates, community volunteers, and forward-thinking citizens through fun, proactive, and experiential programs infused with life skills, character education, and entrepreneurship. And whereas Lemonade Day was founded on empowering youth and allowing them to realize their dreams if they work hard, take responsibility, and act as good stewards of their resources. Through life skills taught in the program, youth of the community will become productive members of society. And whereas on May 13th, 2023, every citizen has an opportunity to support these causes and is encouraged to help by purchasing or helping children sell lemonade. The Deming Public Schools Board of Education encourages the public to simply purchase a couple of lemonade drinks from one of our young entrepreneurs participating in the program to demonstrate how our community cares for the future of our youth. Therefore, the Deming Public Schools Board of Education salutes and commends the sponsors, organizers, and participants of this program and extends its best wishes for a successful and rewarding observance.
Is this at the park?
It is throughout the community. So students have been part of our after-school program, learning the fundamentals behind being an entrepreneur, running a business. And then there's been a community events where they've learned how to do, and it's through lemonades. So they've done stand design, they've done advertising, sign development, and mixology, where they've learned to mix different flavors. There's going to be a judging contest, which I'll be judging on May the 3rd at 5 o'clock at D1. And we'll judge for the best lemonade. And then on May 13th, which is this day, the kids will have their stands throughout the community, and they'll be judged on the stand and the advertising and the way that they present themselves. And that is the proclamation for Lemonade Day, because you can go out and buy lemonade at all the different stands in the community. So
I think it's a great program.
and the banks have been involved. They First New Mexico offers a microloan for $30. The kids have to go and they have to fill out an application. They have to plan out, they have to have a business plan. They have to pay it back. And then Peppers has offered 50% off their products. So there's been a lot of community support. Place Charity helps them build signs, design their signage. So it's a great community effort.
So this is not the first year, is it?
This is year 2. This is
I
our
remember
second
that
year.
last
We're working to build it every year.
Yeah.
Well, there's been a lot of advertisement.
Yes.
Yes.
So we ask that you approve this resolution,
Do I have a motion
proclamation, I should say.
to approve the proclamation
Sorry.
recognizing May 13th, 2023 as Lemonade Day?
I'll make the motion.
A second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Would you please call for the vote, please?
Yes. Mrs. Cameron,
Yes.
Mr. Orozco.
Yes.
Mrs. Pice, yes.
Okay, the motion carries. And I think we all should go out and support them.
Yes, we need to buy some lemonade.
Some great lemonade mixing.
Now, Superintendent,
Yes.
you have it.
Well, I still have more. So under the superintendent's report, there's a few things I just wanted to share with you all. The community schools grant that we applied for with Red Mountain we were awarded the planning grant.
Oh,
Yay. We're going to be working to, they have a plan, a timeline of implementation. We'll be advertising. We are required to have a community schools coordinator at that school site. And so that will be that'll be a great kickoff. They're going to start their meetings. They started this last month and will continue and start their planning. So we'll be advertising for that position. We are also with this calendar looking to provide 10 days of summer camp in July. We're right in the middle, and summer camps have just been put out there to the staff as an opportunity to teach something in a fun and hands-on experiential way. We're in the process of collecting proposals right now, so we'll know more. There's been some great ideas submitted already, and we'll be offering some summer camps this summer for students in Deming. And then under staff, excuse me, under staffing, we have Miss Terry Trejo is going to move into the human resources. As you know, Denise is retiring.
Mhm.
And she'll be moving into the executive director position of human resources. We also have hired Andrea Chavez. She started officially today as the Esperanza Child Care Center leader. And she is working to get our staff child care program off the ground so that it starts with the new school year. And those are the big staffing changes at this point. And we still are advertising for our special ed director. And so I'm sure there'll be some other positions as the year starts to wind down. In terms of facilities, I just wanted to give you a quick update that we are now almost done, I believe, and Miss Babs can tell us, but Bataan and Red Mountain air conditioning has been right on track, and they've done an excellent job. We are going to have those two schools completely without swamp coolers very, very soon.
That's good.
And I think their gyms and their cafeterias will be much better for it. So, and then early college is moving along. Your approval tonight is just another piece. We expect that project to be fully ready for them to start the new school year there. We are not expecting any delays. The field house is under renovation too. You'll see construction out there, and it seems to be right on track as well. So I just wanted to give you an update of all the different projects. We also, in addition to those, we have quite a few security projects that are in the works. We're working on the secure vestibules. You heard the last month, actually, you approved for the film and the security card access, and we're working to enhance security regularly. So we've just got to get through some of these priority projects, and we'll keep moving forward. So that's a really quick overview of things that have been happening in the district.
Great, thank you. Are there any board member requests for agenda items for our next meeting?
I just have one question. So with that solar project that we had talked about a couple of months ago, is there any updates or any information?
They
with that?
said April 26th, remind me, Babs.
In Santa Fe, Congress moved that decision, that award
Uh-huh.
from April 23rd to May 30th.
May 30th, okay. So the PRC, I believe, is the group, the public, is moved it. So we don't have an answer yet.
Okay.
I know Hatch received an answer already, but I'm not sure why they knew and we don't, but
Yeah. How about Las Cruces? Do you know if they?
I have not heard of Las Cruces is. I'm wondering if it's because we were a larger project. We were larger projects that they were evaluating, would be my guess. I do want you to put on your calendar that May 19th is graduation.
Yeah, that's right.
Because we won't meet again
Mhm.
unless something comes up until after that. So
7 o'clock.
it's a great question.
That's what it usually
Mr.
is.
Turner will have that for us. I don't know if it's 6 or it's probably 7.
I
Yes.
think it's 7.
And there'll be,
The invitations, but no,
there'll be other graduations also, right? The Cesar Chavez and,
So
and early-
Cesar Chavez, I have not received, and Mr. Nunez left.
Uh.
And May the 12th is early college is at 10 o'clock in the morning.
okay.
So. I believe May 5th is Western's graduation.
Yeah, I think so.
So first 3 Fridays.
Okay. If you wonder what you're gonna do on Friday and you have nothing to do, just call us. We'll give you some. No, I think it's important though that we have some presence that
Yeah. for sure.
when available. Okay,
I think just one last announcement, our archery team welcomed Steve Stucker this morning. You're gonna see pictures soon.
oh,
And I was fortunate to be able to go out there and watch them teach him how to the technique of shooting an arrow. So that was pretty cool. He was
Yeah.
very personable. He's on his farewell tour. And he made his stop in Deming.
will that be on?
Yes, they had his news crew was there as well.
So we
So
don't know
on
when it
I
is.
don't know when it'll be. I don't know, but
That's great.
yes,
Looks nice.
yes,
And he's going out, huh?
he's done.
Oh, how do we do that without Steve?
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Our next regular board meeting will be May 25th at the Emmett Shockley Administration Building right here. And if there are no other announcements or any requests for agenda items, then I will entertain a motion. We're not gonna have closed session.
Mm-mm. Motion to adjourn.
Up to adjourn. Even though it says closed session, we're not going to have
We took that
executive
off.
session. We took that off. So,
Mhm.
so do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Bobby made the motion.
Okay.
And I'll
Yes.
second.
We have a motion and a second. Would you like to take the roll call to see if we're going to
Adjourn or not?
leave, adjourn
Yeah.
or not?
Yeah, sure. Mrs. Cameron,
Yes.
Mr. Orozco,
Yes.
Mrs. Pice, yes.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for your work. We know this is a really, really busy time for you right now.